from empowerment is exactly that, gradually letting go of the hands that helped us through empowerment and taking those first steps towards independence that inclusion brings. Good morning. I'm Jacqueline, the current CEO, Kenya Association of Women in Tourism, working to empower women through policy, advocacy, and mentorship. I'm here to share some ideas about inclusion in tourism as a woman who values balance in the workplace, leaving no one behind. Now, let's talk about how we can accelerate action towards inclusion. Right, next, please. There we go. The 2019 comprised 54% of the global workforce, as Judy pointed out earlier. In tourism, women's representation is even higher, given the similarities with homemaking. We're the ones who are identified with the cooking, we're identified with housekeeping, we're identified with guest services, guest relations, keeping people comfortable. So the similarities between tourism and women are quite a number. Yeah, and because of that, the number of women in this industry are way larger than the gender colleagues. But this, unfortunately, doesn't translate to equal representation in decision-making positions of leadership. Women continue to face barriers like access to leadership roles, pay gap disparities, and being relegated to the low-paid jobs, among other challenges. So for there to be impact and change, we need to move from just opportunities that are discussed in meetings and seminars to real representation whose impact and influence can be felt. Okay, next. Okay, now the myths about women in leadership are many huge myths that some are quite entertaining. So if you'd like to post in the chat box, share with us, what have you heard about women in leadership that you know is a myth? Apart from the ones that are featured there, which other ones have you heard? Let's see what ideas you come up with. Kindly post on the chat. And as you post, I'll talk about the ones that are here. So there's a myth that women are not interested in leadership. And yet, there are so many women who aspire to leadership, but they face systemic barriers, including gender biases, lack of mentorship, and unequal access to opportunities. Many women, I'm sure you all have heard of examples of women who have been victimized after maternity breaks. They come back and find, unfortunately, they have been laid off. And this happens a lot, way too much in the tourism and hospitality industry. We also hear of women who miss out on networking opportunities due to home care responsibilities, while their male counterparts are busy sealing business deals over a drink or at golf. So these are some of the challenges that face women. It's not that they don't want leadership, but these are the challenges that they face. If I could just look at some of the examples you have given. Yeah, women cannot lead men. Women do not have the grit needed to in the corridors of leadership. Yeah, I've had that. Women are emotional and cannot make sound decisions. Oh my God. Women are emotional beings and less objective. Sadly, these are real um, myths that are propagated out there. There's also the myth that tourism is an equal opportunity sector, which means free for all. Anybody can get in there and get a slot. But the facts are that women in tourism earn 14% less than men on average. And they often work in informal and seasonal jobs with little job security. We've had numerous cases where women are laid off, maybe because they have monthly hormonal complications, or the maid has taken off. So the woman has to go home to take care of the children. So, employers unfortunately have had a leaning towards employing men more because to them, the men are less complicated. I had a conversation with a gentleman who told me that he cannot employ women in his bar because they are vulnerable. So if he employs a woman in the bar, he has to put her behind this uh, steel rod, the grill barrier, so that she's not attacked by the drunk revelers. The woman in the bar is also not able to work at night because how will she get home? There's security issues there. So these are some of the challenges that are put against women working in certain spaces that are really beyond their control. There's a myth of high workforce participation equals leadership representation. Judy actually pointed out very clearly to us that uh, so many of the women employed are not represented in the leadership roles. And despite making up over half of the tourism workforce, women still hold less than 40% of management positions and 20% of general management positions, and fewer than 8% of board seats. So other myths that I can add, and you also brought up there, is that the myth that promoting women leaders means that their leadership styles are less effective than men. Promoting leaders, women leaders, excludes men. And some of these, you wonder, because research has shown that women leaders often bring diverse perspectives, they bring innovation and collaboration in their leadership styles, which improves business performance. Gender inclusion benefits everyone by creating balanced decision-making, improving the workplace culture, and driving economic growth. So all these myths that we've heard about really are just excuses of, society not wanting to see what next. If we can go to the next slide. Now, I love this picture. Tell me, you can type in the chat, what hurdle is missing from in front of the women? Or first of all, maybe you can actually say, what do you see in this picture? Because it speaks a lot. And then which hurdles are missing? You can see the laundry, you can see the ironing, you can see the cooker, she's going to cook. There's a dishwasher there. you can just chat, let's get interactive on this. What else is missing from this list, this picture, in terms of the hurdles women face? Lots of men, yes. Benjamin, you're spot on. Children and family responsibilities, absolutely, Lucy, absolutely. Any others? Any other ideas? Anything you can see? Missing in picture are hurdles of access to credit. Yes, Judy. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a massive one. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. Nobody is mentioning her heels. Period poverty. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Nobody is mentioning her heels. Parents, that comes under family, children and family responsibilities. Most of the time, it's the woman who does the caring in the home. She's the one who cares for the children. She's the one who cares for parents on both sides, her parents plus the husband's parents. And she's also the one, yes, as Esther says, helps with the homework. She's the doctor. She's the one who is consoling, whether it's the husband or the children. So these are real challenges that women face in trying to get access to leadership. If we can go to the next slide, it will also show, yes, and work balance pressures. Those are real. So some of these are the realities of women in leadership. There's gender bias and discrimination in promotion. When you look at two students in a tourism and hospitality institution, male and female, they're both learning the same content. After graduation, so we're assuming they are from early 20s to mid 20s. Mid 20s is when they finish their college. They both go out looking for job opportunities. When they go out, the girl, because of the biological clock, which is one of the silent realities and hurdles women have to go through, because of her biological clock, chances are that she will get married almost immediately after graduating. She's in her mid-20s, will probably have a plan for childbirth until 30. And meanwhile, so what happens? She will end up going off work for maternity leave. Meanwhile, her counterpart, the male guy, is still at work, getting more training, getting mentorship. And by the time she comes back, he's possibly just getting his first promotion. We have lack of mentorship and sponsorship, lack of work-life balance pressures, as was mentioned by Patricia. We have insecurity and workplace safety issues, as I mentioned earlier, for those working in places like where there's alcohol sold. There's also women who work in lodges. The facilities are not conducive to women, and especially women who are in marriage. Apart from the facilities, there is the danger of animals. If the lady is going to the lodge early morning at 5 in the morning, chances are that she will need an escort to see her to the lodge. Otherwise, she will end up, meeting the wildlife. So these are the real challenges that women are facing. COVID didn't make things any better. It disproportionately affected women, with 62 million jobs lost in this sector, most of them held by women. But we're not here to complain. We're not here to cry about the things that are not working in our favor. There are so many success stories. We have Hilton, who have a women's leadership development program. And this one prepares women for leadership through mentorship and skills training. Our friend Judy here is also a woman, a powerhouse in sustainability. Her work emphasizes social and environmental accountability, focusing on integrating communities into conservation efforts and showing the world that a woman in leadership can deliver impact. So research has shown that companies with gender diverse leadership outperform their competitors. However, statistics also show that women are far less likely than men to attain their very first promotion to a managerial role. There was a survey done in the US in 2018 that showed that for every 100 men who received their first promotion to a managerial position, only 79 women were promoted. So it's 79 to 100. In 2024, the same survey showed that only 81 women were promoted. So that small leap from 79 to 81, as much as we celebrate, it's one of those that are the growths that can easily be consumed in case there is any instability in the organization. So because of this broken rank in the corporate ladder, the men significantly outnumber women at the managerial level. Okay, we can go on to the next one. There are many, many, many opportunities for inclusion of women in leadership. We have mentorship and networking programs. We know that women thrive with mentorship. In COUT, we have a very robust mentorship subcommittee. We're currently mentoring entry-level students, both male and female, entry-level employees in the industry through KUDEHA, the union. The reason we are going to entry-level is because they have just come from the security of the training institution. And the work life, the real world out there is way more scary, uncertain for these new employees. So if we get them at that level, at entry level, then we're able to teach them about their rights, about what is, what should not be accepted in terms of sexual harassment in the workplace, and such topics, social media etiquette, so that they don't mess up their future employment by posting the wrong things. So we at COUT embrace mentorship, and there are other structured programs such as the one I mentioned at the Hilton, which support the growth of these women and men when they join the workplace. We also have training and development initiatives, and these are opportunities that we recommend tourism companies to invest in, so that they train on leadership and skill development for women with tailored programs. Women thrive in training where there are modules, because that allows flexibility of their studies. So if she is busy in the home front, she's able to organize her chores and slide in the training if it's a module. But if it's a class training, we have seen that many women end up losing out in terms of the opportunities to be trained. There's inclusive work environments, and that means equal pay. I mentioned earlier, we have serious gender pay disparities. But with inclusive environments, we mean equal pay for equal work. We mean flexible work arrangements so that the woman leader can manage to organize herself around her other responsibilities, many of which are beyond her control. And then there's policies against workplace harassment, which must be standardized in our industry. We have policies and legal reforms, and these include gender inclusive policies, which must be adopted across the industry. Okay, one thing I want to point out in terms of opportunities for women in leadership in the tourism industry. Technology is a big plus. Leaning on digital tools and remote work options enables women to access leadership roles beyond geographical limitations. We've just heard that many women are involved with the communities which feed the tourism industry. And community-based models also include women allowing work-life balance. So using technology in the hiring process for me is something we must adopt in the tourism industry because it ensures that the candidates are picked purely for their skills. So the algorithm, if we use the technology, it will just pick, it can be adjusted to only pick the skills that match the vacancy. In fact, I would also encourage that vacancies should be advertised excluding the gender box so that we ensure equal opportunities for all. Okay. We can go to the next one. Right. So to move from empowerment to inclusion, we still need some level of empowerment. After all, just because the baby is walking, you don't allow them to cross the road unaccompanied. But while empowerment is important, it doesn't address systemic barriers to leadership on its own. We need inclusion. And inclusion means ensuring that women have influence, decision-making power, and a genuine place at the table. Inclusion also means that women's perspectives shape policies in the industry, that they shape strategies in the industry, and they shape, in general, the future of tourism. There needs to be convergence between political will, because all this starts right at the top. So if we have political will and we have government policies that support inclusion of women in leadership, and then now the private sector, which is the entrepreneurs in the industry and the employees in the industry, the HR, if they have commitment, then all this change can be realized. In the strategies to inclusion, we require structural changes that address the root causes of gender inequality in tourism leadership for us to chart real progress. This means examining and reforming systems that have historically excluded women from positions of influence. We need to unlearn these damaging systems. And actually they are backward. We need to unlearn these and educate women and communities on the opportunities available for a more balanced industry. For sustainability, these policies must be institutionalized so that they are not vulnerable to changes in management, that it depends which manager is at the top, or changes in government, because we've seen government positions and appointments also affect some of the policies that are in place. There is also a need for accurate data to inform these policies. And I'm happy to say that COUT also partnered with Strathmore University to get such gender-specific data under the COUT fellowship program, because you can only correctly influence policy change by submitting relevant data. I'd like to take us to some of the thematic areas that have been seen to contribute to gender disparity. So one is employment. So women lack access to employment. Entrepreneurship. We saw mentioned earlier the bit about the finances. Women tend to lack the finances to open up their own businesses. There's education and training, as we said. If her biological clock, she's out there making sure that we have more citizens, then she will end up getting less education and training. There is the lack of inclusion in decision-making positions. And then there's communities, which unfortunately, due to cultures and the patriarchal society, they relegate women to very low positions. But the SDGs have goals that are helping to address some of these, and they are also bringing opportunities that we can tap into. So opportunities are there. We can go to, sorry, Judy, I think we're still there. On opportunities, there are some that I can mention. And I'll go back to what Judy mentioned about the handicrafts. I have a particular concern about how we have limited our women, especially in Narok and Kajiado, to only beading. That's basically what they can do. But the market for these beautiful handicraft is getting smaller and it's crowded. So there's need to focus more on innovation. There's need to improve product development, as well as increase the market outlets, because everybody, apart from those in Narok and Kajiado, everybody, including the ones in Nairobi, are getting in this business. So for us to ensure that these women are not pushed out of business, we can look at growing the opportunities through product development. We can look at growing the outlets so that everybody has their space without getting too crowded. And then look at innovation. These communities are also feeding tourism. So we can look at diversifying tourism income activities. Like, for example, if the women in the communities get into agriculture, they can now sell their produce to the hospitality industry. Judy mentioned about cultural ambassadors. We need to focus on growing cultural experiences, cultural villages, because women are known to be the storytellers. When I think back, my grandma is the one who used to give us stories about our tribe. She used to give us stories about stories that are around, they're value-based, they're meant to teach ethics. So if we can embrace cultural experiences, cultural villages as part of tourism's supply chain, these are some of the opportunities we need to tap into. We've got the SDG 5 on gender equality, as well as 8, which looks at decent work and economic growth. Tourism needs to provide decent work for women in the industry. If we look at including SDG 1, which talks about no poverty, women's role as entrepreneurs in this industry can lead to women's economic empowerment if we focus on promoting SDG 1 as well as SDG 5, because SDG 5 is basically standard. Another one we can look at is on education and training, which promotes gender equality and women's empowerment. And that's SDG 4, which talks about quality education for all. Another opportunity is on SDG 16, which looks at peace, justice, and strong institutions. And this one focuses on ensuring that women are represented and they are influential in decision-making spaces. It also it empowers women to work collectively for justice and for gender equality. So these are all opportunities open to us that we can tap into, so that we're not just looking at what is wrong, we're also looking at how can we make it better? How can we enable women to achieve their goals in terms of leadership? So if we go now to my conclusion. The next slide.
Yes. Just 1 minute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So we've agreed that there's need to transform by creating a tourism sector where women can lead and innovate. Women are by nature creative, and if they are given these opportunities, instead of them looking like they're going to exclude the men, they will collaborate innovatively, creatively, to ensure that the industry accommodates everybody. We also advocate by supporting women-led businesses and equality in workplaces. And the third is to individually commit to implement gender-inclusive policies and leadership programs in our tourism establishments. Women are actually central to tourism, as we said earlier, because we are the majority in the industry. And yet, their leadership potential remains largely untapped due to the persistent myths you brought up and we looked into. They are also locked out because of structural barriers and biases, many of which are beyond their control. However, the opportunities exist in mentorship, in corporate commitments, in policy changes, and in grassroots leadership. By working together, we can create a tourism sector that is truly inclusive, where women don't just participate, they lead, they shape, and they transform this industry. The future of tourism depends on harnessing the full potential of all its workforce. Gender equality needs to be firmly embedded in the tourism policy. And I thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie, for enlightening us, for reminding us, for challenging us, for questioning, systemic exclusion of women, and just for reminding all of us that we have got our work cut out for us as women. Every woman who is in this webinar this morning, this presentation should inspire you to know that we still have our work cut out for us as women in this industry. And we are going to push forward. Yeah, we're going to make sure those doors are open. We're going to make sure those barriers are removed. We are going to work without walls for women in whatever form of our roles in the industry, that we've got to have traditional roles. I'm going to use this example as you write your questions to Jackie in the chat, so that she can help us with answering your question. But let me give you a practical example of something that happened along my work in my career. I have had the opportunity of working in senior management in organizations, but as the statistic that I started with shared earlier on, I started working in spaces around guest relations, customer service. I worked in an international organization in guest relations, managing all, contributing to the travel arrangements of all the expatriates, that when they came to Kenya, they were comfortable, making sure that their bookings for accommodation that was actually my launching into the space of hospitality before I found my footing in sustainability. But the example that I wanted to give, that it's somewhere along the way in my career, in the organizations that I have worked with, I sat in a board meeting of one of the organizations. And unfortunately, here was boards that were predominantly, you found yourself as a lady, the head of the organization, and everybody in the board meeting was male often. Yeah, these days things have changed. And in this particular organization, one of the board members said to me, Jackie, just because I came up with an idea that they could not understand and they did not want to believe in, and I strongly felt that this was something that this organization needed to do at this particular time. And in the process of strongly defending my position, he actually told me, you need to know who you are talking to. Like, can't you see who we are and what we have achieved? What do you think you can tell us? Yeah. And insist that you want to do it. If we say it's a no, it's a no. And if you want to, this is in a board meeting. If you don't accept our contribution, you may as well leave. But that was not the thing that was most painful. The thing that was most painful was when he told me, and if you leave, I want to let you know that you will never work in this industry, because we are the ones who are here and we are the ones who determine who gets a job where and who works in this industry. For the first time in my career, I'm saying this because there are also many women here and younger women. For the first time in my career, I'm a very strong woman, I believe so. I looked at the guy and I shed a tear, and I keep asking myself today, Judy, did you cry for yourself or did you cry for him? Of how sorry you felt for him, that he felt like he had control? Or did you cry for yourself that you were so vulnerable that somebody else can determine whether or not you will work in this industry again? And as I say this, I know there are many women who have found themselves in awkward situations, particularly as you try to find your space and you try to create a voice and try to be heard and to be respected in certain spaces. that these barriers still exist. And they are real, even as we talk about them today. You know, as we type them, they might sound like things that we have picked out of textbooks, but they are realities, and there are many more, and I have many more examples. But I talk about them with a smile on my face, so that I know that we have in us what it takes to be leaders in this industry. And that all these other things, whether they are policies, whether they are laws, we just have to be consistent and persistent and get over them. And that's why organizations like the Kenya Association of Women in Tourism are very timely. And this project with Kudeha, where you were mentoring young professionals in the industry, is very, very important, because we entered the workspace, started working in these industries, and nobody mentored us. We did not know what to expect in the spaces that we were working. And so we, from time to time, we found ourselves in very, very awkward situations, like where I found myself, and I felt like after that it was impossible for me to continue working in that organization. And I'm grateful that other opportunities opened and came up, and I had to exit because that work relationship had already been damaged. I will not tell you what I did after I shed a tear and looked at my husband and said, "This is what I did." Yes, there's a question from Peter and
Yeah.
you. Jackie, are you able to read the chat so
Yes,
that I
yes,
don't
yes.
have to read the questions over? I will
Actually,
let you respond to the questions. Yeah.
thank you, Judy. Peter and Benjamin almost have similar questions um, about the existing societal biases and organizational biases. You know, um, we all know that we are generally in a highly patriarchal society. And that's why for us in COUT, we looked at influencing change of mindset for entry-level employees, because sometimes, as they say, it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. But as you said, with the existing frameworks and policies, if these are implemented, if these are set in place in the tourism industry, they have to be embedded in the tourism policy for there to be actual change that is seen in change of behavior. Um, if a woman is denied access to leadership roles and yet she's skilled, and there's a policy in that organization, then um, she's able to go and advocate for herself based on those policies that are set in place. She's able to have a backup because the policy is already in place. And that's why I was stressing that in the tourism industry, we must ensure that these inclusive policies are in place in our institutions. Some of the results, as Benjamin says, the unpleasant prejudiced people. Some of these are beyond your control, and as you said, Judy, if it's toxic, then you have no space in that. And as women, I would not encourage becoming hard, as much as we have been made to become a lot more assertive because of these challenges that we face. But in assertiveness, and I'm saying assertiveness, not aggressiveness, because we are still women. There is absolutely nothing wrong with us being emotional. Emotions are power. Emotions are our strength. And emotions are the ones that help us relate with each other as human beings. So for women, when you end up uh, getting emotional because of some of these unfair judgments, that is okay, and you should never be apologetic. But women are also resilient. So in terms of emotions, as long as we maintain a balance and don't get caught up too much in the emotions, we can think rationally, put our points together, because once you know what you're doing, what you're talking about, then, and you present it in a structured manner, in a balanced manner, then everybody, whether they accept or not, they will see that you're speaking sense. If they still do not accept what you're saying, then it's okay. You can move on and go to places where your skills are more acknowledged and appreciated. But some of these unfortunate incidents in the workplace are mainly because of lack of education, lack of policies, and these are now the ones that we are saying the frameworks are already there. If we have the policies in place, then there's backup for the woman who maybe is being mistreated in the workplace. If I go to Esther's question, we see labor unions representing teachers, doctors, and policemen. In tourism, hospitality is being done. Okay. Basically, you're asking what is the union doing to bridge the gap, the payment gap? Pay disparity is basically on the employer. So this is where the HR people come in. The unions have a basic salary, basic scale. It doesn't specify whether it's male or female. It just specifies a particular pay for a particular scale job scale. So the unions cannot really get involved in terms of bridging the pay gap, but the HR can, because if the policy is there and each individual is able to demonstrate what they have done, what their skills are, that should attain a particular pay, then those policies are what will protect the employee, whether male or female. So back again to policies. Those are really critical in our industry. If we have the right policies in place, then all employees will be protected. Having said that, I have personally worked in an organization where these policies were in place, but without buy-in from HR, you're bound to end up in a bit of push and pull as you fight for your rights, because if they don't have, if you don't have the HR buy-in, the human beings will always find a way to get around what they want. So I encourage women to be confident, believe in yourself, and state the facts. This is what I am capable of. This is what I have done. These are my skills. And this is the pay job, the scale, the pay scale that I believe I belong to, compared to the male counterpart, but without aggressiveness. There's another question. What are some strategies women in tourism can apply to achieve work-life family balance? Yes, I mentioned those a bit earlier. Training is a big deal in terms of why many women end up missing out, that broken rung in the corporate ladder. So for the woman who has gone, for maternity leave and comes back and finds she's a bit behind in terms of her training, there's training modules which can be taken advantage of for her to bring herself back up to par with her male counterparts in terms of training. Online training is just absolutely amazing. I love technology. I think technology is the woman's biggest ace in terms of, that's her weapon, that's her secret weapon. If we as women can take advantage of technology, do those online courses, some of them can be done even when you're driving, but just take advantage of technology to bridge that training gap. In terms of communities, women involving themselves with communities, they can start as entrepreneurs through community-based tourism initiatives. Like if she wants to get into agriculture, if she wants to get into maybe even creating apps for the tourism industry. These are things that women can do that don't really require them to, be up and competing actively with their male counterparts. But we can innovate and find creative ways of still getting up to leadership without having to also jeopardize our role in the homes. I believe women also need to use their gift of influencing, because if you do not have a supportive partner at home, then some of these challenges you will be basically pushing uphill, and it's going to be very challenging. So let's use our skills of influencing to ensure that the partners at home are supportive, that you also get, whether it's a house help who is supportive and accommodating. That way, we're able to manage to balance some of these challenges around work and home. Unfortunately, many women have put some of these on the side so that they can build a family. And then they have also taken it up later, because there's nothing that says you cannot come back later and pick it up from there. There's no limit to when you can start your career or start your business. So those are also options that are open to women. And I think that way, individually, it's up to, for me, I chose do the family and then do the career later. But the training modules really, really help in terms of getting you back, up to par with the male counterparts. There's a question for Ada. Are there specific skills and competencies that women should focus on to stand out? Yes, Ada. Oh my God, we are blessed in that with empathy. Empathy is a powerhouse. Empathy is something that I'm not going to say is unique to women, but they have a higher percentage of empathy. And With empathy, you're able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand where they're coming from when they're attacking you. So when, it's said that hurt people are the ones that hurt people. So some of those incidences, like what happened to Judy, was a bit extreme, but that could have come from somebody who was hurting. So, the fact that she didn't fight back, because you also don't want to get, on the same level. It shows empathy. It shows emotional intelligence and empathy. So empathy, emotional intelligence, those are amazing skills that women can leverage on to help them in their leadership journey. There is also the skill of balance. As a woman in the home, you're able to get so many things done at the same time, all in one day, and still manage to have time for yourself. So that skill of managing to prioritize and balance particular responsibilities, that is what will enable women to catch up where they feel there's a deficit. So those are definitely skills that I would highlight in terms of women taking advantage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I hope we have not left anyone behind who has a question this morning. We have been reminded, like I said, and we have also learned. Jackie had a very strong call to action for all of us, for the society at large, that there is a process in which we can achieve inclusion, and that she used the three words: transform, advocates, and commit. For those of us who are in this webinar this morning, I want you to go and ask yourselves, what do these three words mean for my organization, for myself, and for the policy environments where we work, where I work? What can I do around these three very strong words so that women can lead, can shape, and transform? Those are Jackie's words, yeah? Inclusion means that we can lead, we can shape, and we can transform. I will not go through the key issues that have been raised. We can listen to this again, but Jackie, I picked out some important nuggets as you spoke. One of them was the lack of statistics on women participation in tourism. Apart from these broad numbers of 54%, and these other numbers, about 14.7%, women are paid 14.7% less, women make 54% of. If you now get down into trying to look for the volume of women's contribution to the industry through these small businesses that they do, you now don't get the numbers disaggregated, so that those numbers, like you said, without numbers, it is not possible to argue very strongly for policies to be changed. And so the initiative with Strathmore, I hope other countries or other people here can replicate this and look at opportunities to get tourism statistic numbers, travel and tourism statistics around women at country level, at regional level, and global level. That will be a game changer because it will accelerate the decision making, and also it will probably help us to come up with those innovative initiatives for advancing or accelerating inclusion, like we have heard from Jackie. We all know as we leave this meeting that the stereotypes still exist. And therefore, it is a call to action for all of us. What can we do around these stereotypes to ensure that there is a new narrative around women and their possible participation in entrepreneurship, leadership, and governance in the tourism industry. Jackie spoke about systemic structural systems, systemic exclusion and structural systems in the industry that have led to unequal policies that need to be addressed. So there is a work that is cut out also around that particular area. So as we conclude, we know she has mentioned to us now around women innovating in terms of the enterprises that we have in the tourism industry, even innovation around culture and craft. That technology is a game changer for women. I really loved your idea, Jackie, that technology should be used in recruitment to remove all the biases and the barriers that come with gender when it comes, and that technology should be set up to only pick the relevant skills so we can use technology for recruitment. I've never had that before. That one was the first one for me, and thank you for opening our eyes around that area. Having said that, I would now want to conclude, unless there's anybody else who has something to say. If you want to contribute for 1 minute, you can have your hand up and we'll give you the mic for 1 minute. I don't see any hands up at the moment. So I would just like to challenge us and ask ourselves who are in the tourism industry. And I like to align actions for the industry with the year 2030, which is the year of accountability for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want us to think as individuals, think as organizations, think as countries, think as destinations, and ask ourselves, what will be our story around women inclusion in travel and tourism come 2030? What will be the story of Destination Kenya? What will be the story of Destination Africa? What will be the story of your company? What will be the story of your organization? What will you say that you did towards women inclusion in tourism as we come to the year of accountability, that is 2030? Did you contribute to policy? Did you contribute to empowerment? Did you reduce poverty by supporting women to become entrepreneurs in the industry? Did you open the space through advocacy and other work for women to find positions in management in the tourism leadership and management of tourism industry? Did you contribute to decent work? Did your work support women and decent work in the tourism industry? What will be our story around women in tourism? What will we report about come 2030? This should challenge all of us working in the tourism space. And even when we know what we are employees, whether we are entrepreneurs, whether we are investors, whoever we are, we should raise our voice and ask these questions in different forums so that minds can be opened to enable us to start thinking seriously with targets that are laid out to say that come 2030 as an organization, we want to have brought mentorship and training to 5,000 women, opened their eyes around workplace issues for entry-level employees. So come 2030, we will report that in reference to SDG number 5, this is what we achieved as an organization. In reference to SDG number 1, we removed through enterprise 50,000 women out of poverty because there are this number of women that received startup funding or to improve on their small businesses to grow. This was the challenge, part of the challenge for this webinar today, that we should look at 2030 and look ahead and say, what is it that we want to see on, and what is it that we can do? What are we committing to at our level to do so that we can produce an accountability report come 2030? Jackie, because you straddle between private and public sector, take this message to those in the public sector and ask them, what will you say? What will the tourism industry in Kenya say come 2030? What did we do about SDG number 8 for women in decent work for women in tourism? What did we do about SDG number 4 for women in tourism? What did we do about SDG number 1 and SDG number 16, as you have rightfully pointed out? What were we doing as a country focusing on for women as we edge closer towards 2030? When we are focused with a target that is set before us, then we can work backwards and we can create real impact for women in the tourism industry. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This was extremely valuable listening to you. Jackie, thank you for setting time to talk to us. We will have this webinar on our YouTube channel, and a link will be shared with all of you who participated today. And I hope that you can also share the link with those who are not able to come, so that we can amplify the voices of women in tourism. Thanks, everyone, and have a brilliant day. Remember, if you're a woman in tourism in Kenya and you have not joined the Kenya Association of Women in Tourism, if you're here today, please go look them up and sign up and become a member of Kenya Association of Women in Tourism, because that is one way that we are amplifying the voice of women in tourism at national level. Thank you and have a brilliant day. We'll see you next time at the next webinar. Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.